Hello, my dear learners. My dear learners, I'm just going to explain it to you a very important poem that is called Lyric of Lyrics, and that is called the masterpiece or the magnum opus of P.Shelley. P.Shelley, you know that. One of the greatest poets of the second generation of romantics. And to let you know about this poet and about the nature of this poet and about the psychology of this poet and about the approach of thinking of this poet or the perception of this poet, this poem that I'm going to explain it to you is the best one. This poem speaks volume about the nature, about the psychology, about the perception of P.B.Shelley as a poet and as an individual and as a human being. The poem that I'm going to explain it to you is Ode to the West Wind. Ode, you know that. Ode is a kind of a poem that is written in the form of address, praising or appreciating or celebrating a certain occasion or certain thing. Here, P.B.Shelley is praising or appreciating or glorifying the west wind. The west wind, you know that. The wind that blows generally in winter from the west to the east. And Shelley's west wind is not a kind of abstract thing, is not a kind of a natural object only. It is like a deity. It is like a god that can destroy and can preserve, means can give new life. But before I head straightway into the first canto or the first part of the poem, I would like to tell you something about the background of the poem. Shelley was in self-imposed exile in Italy. Why? Because he tried his level best to bring a kind of a revolution, to bring a kind of a change in his country through his thoughts and ideas. He was, you know that, expelled from the University College of Oxford in 1811 for writing a pamphlet titled The Necessity of Atheism. It means he was absolutely against that institutionalized religion of his country, that was Christianity. Why? Because he had a different approach of thinking. He thought that being born on this very particular planet, one and all have equal rights to live with liberty, with empowerment and everything. But he found there was a great maldistribution of property and power. There were a handful number of the people who were ruling large number of the people. It gave a kind of a rise of dissatisfaction and discontentment in young Shelley. You see, there's the place where he was studying, he was called Mad Shelley. So, because of that, he stood against the authority, against the system, and the result was that he was expelled with his friend Thomas Jefferson Hogg. Since he was very much a revolutionary, not ready to accept, not ready to adjust. See, at a very young age of probably only 19, he just married Harriet Westbrook. But, you know, his approach of thinking was somewhat different. He was a kind of a he was a kind of a firebrand. He found it almost impossible to just adjust with his wife also. And the result was that soon he lost interest, or that woman realized that she could not carry on her relation with that person. And the result was that she committed suicide in the year 1816, and Shelley found another woman in his life, that was Mary Godwin, daughter of William Godwin and Mary Wollstonecraft, a woman who wrote some great books, particularly for the rights of the women, and maybe particularly also for the rights of men. But there also Shelley found it difficult to cope with, but that lady was somewhat different and more intellectual, and the result or the proof for intellectuality, her great work, the just Frankenstein that she wrote. So see, Shelley was just struggling, just a kind of you can say that just rebelling against the system and the society, but he just found almost impossible to just manage or to bring a kind of a change. As a result of this, there was a growing unrest in his country. The situation or the condition just was not good at all in his own country. Why? Because revolution was in a kind of a blood, was in his blood. Why? Because you know that he was born just 3 years after the French Revolution in the year 1792, and French Revolution began in 1789. So Shelley had to leave his country. Shelley had to leave his country and took refuge in Italy. He settled at Pisa in Italy with his wife, with his family. There, see, this poem, Ode to the West Wind, was written in the year 1819, because there Shelley heard a very shocking news about a certain massacre that was later called Peterloo Massacre in ironic sense, because of Waterloo, Napoleon Waterloo, that war that took place at Waterloo. This was called Peterloo Massacre. This massacre actually took place in the month of August 1890. See, just after this Waterloo, just battle, England was struggling with lots of complications, like struggling with the just unemployment, struggling with the just with lots of complications, and so on and so forth. People just of the country were not satisfied at all with the government, with the king, so on and so forth. That's why just a good number of the people, they were the farmers with their own family members, they gathered at a particular place, maybe St. Peter, and there they were just protesting in a peaceful manner. But there, getting the orders from the local administration, a cavalry charge fell upon those innocent, peaceful protesters, killing as many as 15 and injuring or wounding maybe in thousands. When this shocking news reached Shelley in Italy, where he was in a kind of a self-imposed exile, it shocked him a lot. It it made him fly off the handle. It made him infuriated. He became greatly angry. Now he wanted to reach out to his own people, to his own country. He wanted to stand with the people. He wanted to speak against the authority, that ruthless authority. But somehow it was not possible for him. So he found a way to reach out to his people. And this poem he wrote particularly to reach out to his people. Now in this poem, here he uses the west wind as a kind of a messenger, as a kind of an agent who can carry his message to his people. Why? Because the west wind is tameless. It cannot be confined within a certain within a certain space or within a certain area. Why? Because it is so powerful. It is so strong. And that's why here Shelley's wind is not only a wind, mere a wind. It is a kind of a deity or God for him that will definitely carry his message to his own people. That, no doubt at all. At present, time is not favorable. Situation is worst. But out of this worst situation, the sun of the bright and the happy day will definitely rise. Because the poem ends with the beautiful line, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Fine situation. The country is in a kind of a turmoil. But how long will this last? If there is death, it means birth is not far away. Birth is just very close, at a stone's throw. This very particular poem is divided into 5 cantos, means 5 parts, and each part has 14 lines. Terza rima is used in the poem. The kind of a tercet, interlocked tercet. 3 lines are connected to the next 3 lines. Next 3 lines are connected to the next 3 lines. And in this way, there is a kind of a uniformity. In this video, I'm just going to cover the first 14 lines with the first canto of this poem, in which he shows the impact or the power of the west wind on the earth. How does the west wind on one hand act as a destroyer by plucking or by causing the just leaves of the trees to fall, and on the other hand, how does the wind carry those seeds to that place, and how does it preserve and protect them, so that when the just spring arrives, those seeds germinates into plants and trees and find a new life. So now let's look at the first canto and understand in a much better manner. See, O wild west wind. So see, the poem begins with a kind of address, and I told you that the odes are written in the form of the address to appreciate or praise or to glorify someone. So here he is glorifying the wind. O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being. So see, wild west wind, wild. See the use of the adjective or the words. Wind is wild. Wild, wild means tameless. Tameless, that uncontrolled, unmanageable, absolutely powerful. So powerful that cannot be checked or controlled or tamed. So he says, O wild west wind, thou breath, breath, life. See, thou breath. See, the beautiful metaphor is used of autumn's being, and autumn is here personified as a living. And this wind is the breath, oxygen for, you can say, this autumn season. Means without when the autumn is dead, just as our human body, without breath we are dead. In the same manner, without autumn the wind is, without when the autumn is dead. So see, here he is actually not, you can say that not personifying the wind, but here you can say that here he is just here he is trying to give the stature of a god or a deity to the wind. That wind is far above the humans. It is so powerful. It has the power to break all the barriers that divide, and from this country to that country it can go, or it goes. So thou means when, from whose unseen presence. So see, try to see this. How does he look at? See, here he wants to say, or you can say that just as the gods, or just as Wordsworth speaks about a certain power that rules, that he feels almost in everything, in Tintin Abbey. In the same manner, here he also talks about the different ways of the manifestation of the God, that how does God manifest himself through different just agencies, or through different agents of the nature. So he says that thou, from whose unseen presence, that we cannot see it. Why? Because it is abstract. But we can feel the power of the wind. We can feel the presence of the wind by its power. We can feel it. Why? Because when the wind blows, particularly the western wind, the west wind, what does happen? How the leaves are seen flying or moving. It's absolutely, you can say this, based on the principle of physics. But here, his approach of just describing this thing is absolutely different. Why? Because he's a romantic, and romantic had a different way of approaching, a different way of describing, a different way of delineating. So he says that thou, from whose unseen presence, the leaves, dead leaves he talks about. Why? Because the poem begins just in autumn. Remember that. Maybe in this September, or you can say October around, you can say that. Why? Because very soon October, or very soon just is the December, means the winter will start. So dead leaves dead leaves means lifeless leaves can be seen, just what? Can be seen coming down from their branches, from the branches of the trees. Are driven, carried, means the wind make them fly like ghost. See, they just see the just imagery used in the poem. See the comparison here. There's the similes used. Mean here the dead leaves are compared to ghost from ancient or fleeing. So generally, here just Shelley must have seen certain magicians or just wizards, particularly for being just or particularly for he must have seen just people calling just magicians, particularly for just driving away the ghost from a haunted house by just by by chanting certain spell of by chanting certain spell of mantras or this and that, by doing this or that. So here he says that just as the ghost runs away as soon as an enchanter or a magician approaches. In the same manner, these leaves are seen flying, seen running soon after the arrival of the west wind. So see, the beautiful visual imagery is used, how here he imagines just the presence of the wind, imagines the just a wind just like an enchanter with the magical power, and the leaf just like the just ghost, just flying or running or taking to their heels. So see, beautiful just imagery is used here all through this poem. Yellow and black and pale and hectic means dark red. These all colors actually here stand for the death of these leaves are dead. Generally, when the leaves become yellow, dry, pale, it means they are dead. So he talks about it all through the poem. The death as a metaphor is everywhere present. Pestilence means pestilence stricken as a pestilence is a mass killing disease, a kind of a epidemic, just like the COVID. Pestilence stricken multitudes, large number of the lead, that's why multitude. See, O thou again, see this, O thou again, address to the wind, who chariotist carry to their dark wintry bed. It means underground part of the earth is compared to the bed, dark wintry bed. This is the underground earth where the leaves, where the just where this where just the wind carries or preserve these dead leaves with the seeds, the wing seeds, where they lie cold and low. So how will the dead leaves lie there deep down in the earth, just like you can say, just like the human bodies are just like the human bodies are laid buried inside the grave, but human bodies are laid there only to decay. But these leaves, these seeds will not lie there for their decay, but they will lie there for only and only to germinate into a new life soon after the arrival of the spring. This is the difference. See, that's why he's addressed the wing seeds, as if those seeds have the wing. Again, metaphor is used where they lie cold and low. Why cold? Why? Because underground temperature is down. Low? Why? Because down. Each like corpse, dead body within its grave. So see, again here, see, each like again the simile is used. Why? Because these wing seeds, seeds are compared to a corpse lie buried in the grave until thine azure sister. Means the spring wind is called the azure sister of just a west wind. Thine means your, means west wind. Azure sister of a spring shall blow. So he said, these dead leaves or these wing seeds will lie there under the ground until the spring comes in the month of February, in the end of in the end of the January or the beginning of the February, and then what will happen? A very soft, gentle spring wind will blow that will help those just seeds buried under the ground germinate, sprout into beautiful flowers. See the beautiful imagery and see the imagination of the poet. How does he make use of the power of imagination that the romantics talk, St. Coleridge talks? See, thine azure sister of spring shall blow her clarion. Clarion is a kind of a musical instrument over the dreaming earth. Mean again personification is used. Earth is here personified as a being sleeping and dreaming. So generally what happens in the winter? In winter there is no vegetation on the earth. Almost earth, just how does the earth looks? Absolutely, the earth looks inactive. So here the poet imagine the earth as a as a being sleeping and dreaming, and who comes to wake the earth from its sleep? The soft gentle breeze of the spring, and the the earth wakes up, and when the earth wakes up, there is flower and there is lush greenery almost everywhere with 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 the beautiful flowers, and the fragrance just makes the entire or make the entire earth as a kind of a heaven, or is a kind of a garden of Eden, you can say that. See, driving sweet birds like flocks to feed. See, beautiful again. This just a simile is used. A beautiful, just a visual imagery is used. That he says that the moment the spring comes, see the life it gives to the earth. Everywhere there is lush green. You can say lush green vegetation, and the smell, you can say, and the color just far beyond the imagination, or far beyond, just so beautiful that just almost impossible to express in terms of words. See the power within living hues, colors, and odors means smell. Plain and hill, so everywhere there is lush green vegetation, and the smell and the color of the vegetation means flowers. Wild spirit, which art moving everywhere. And he says, wild spirit with the west wind. The presence of the west wind is felt almost everywhere, not at a particular place. Destroyer and preserver, here, oh here. So see, the first stanza or the first canto ends with a beautiful, you can say, metaphor. You can say that he calls the wind destroyer, calls the wind preserver. Somehow in the somehow down the line he has one thing in his own mind that, or somehow I told you that here just his west wind or the poet's west wind is not a simply agent of the nature, but here the God is manifesting his power through the wind, and it is the God who can only be called the destroyer and preserver. Just like in our own Hindu mythology, we have Lord Shiva as a destroyer and Lord Vishnu as a preserver. There he does not believe in a particular institutionalized religion, but here he is universalizing the religion. And that's why here he says that his God is, or that power or that unseen power of the word's worth here in this poem is manifesting itself through the wind. And that's why he calls it destroyer. Why? Because the wind plucks the leaves from the branches of the trees. Preserver. Why? Because the wind preserves the seeds just by covering it with the dead leaves, and then when the just spring comes, they germinate into new plants, or they give a new lease of life. So in this way, since the wind just plucks the leaves, it is destroyer. Since it preserves the seeds for, so that they can again they can give a new lease of life, or they bring a new lease of life, or they bring a new life. In this way in this way the wind is preserver, and he wants the wind to hear what he wants to say, so that the wind could carry his message to his own people who are in trouble. He wants to console and calm his people down, that they don't need to feel low. Why? Because if they are in trouble, if suffering is certain, if they have suffering, or just suffering or sadness or sorrow all around, it means very soon the fate, the joy will come in their own life. If the night has come, morning is not far away. So I hope, my dear learners, this first stanza, first canto this explanation of mine will definitely help you just to understand this first canto of the poem. Provided that you find some complication, do feel absolutely free and do let me know.